Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 20th, 2022 at approximately 8:44 p.m. PST. In case you hadn't figured it out, it is way past time for us to put fear aside, for us to quit talking about to quit focusing on the differences between people, on what scares the daylights out of you. It is time for people to start teaching each other. And yes, that means we start with the parents and we work upwards. Academically, spiritually, politically, it is time to let go of the fear. Now, I'm watching all sorts of things happen here. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide for one reason. Okay, the tools that I offer are the same tools I personally use. They are the same philosophies I live by. Okay, and I only live by three. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay, now those three laws, if you take a look at all of the laws that you work with, whether we're talking spiritual, political, as in legal, societal, whatever, take a look at any guideline you live by. And frankly, I do believe that you will find that it fits into those three that I live by. Now, I returned to this life for one primary reason, and that is to pass on a simple message. Working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody, but it is up to you to do the work. And it starts right here. It starts by taking a look in your own heart and asking yourself, are you content with the way that your life is progressing? Are you content with the way that you're behaving, that you're treating other people? It is time to take responsibility for your own actions. Now, you cannot unsay that which has been said. You cannot undo that which has been done. You cannot unknow that which has been known. Okay? And you cannot unthink that which has been thought. What this all boils down to is once it is put in motion, you cannot go back into the past and alter it. You can certainly correct it. Much like if you go down the wrong road. If you're driving along or walking along, you make a wrong turn. You can go back the way you came, or find another way back to the original path, and carry on from where you made the misstep. This applies for everybody. It doesn't matter where you come from in life. Okay, if you have to be one of these people that have made some mistakes when you were younger, and younger could, by the way, be yesterday, and you've ended up in prison, this does not mean you are inherently bad for the rest of your life. Contrary to what many of the mainstream religions especially, have said. Okay, now, I grew up in a Christian home. Okay, do I believe in God and Jesus? Yes. Doesn't matter to me whether you do or not. Call it what you will. But, number one, God is not going to condemn you for eternity. He gave you free will. Okay, whether you call it God or something else doesn't matter. You've made mistakes. If you've got kids that are making mistakes, let us not forget. You, when you were a child, undoubtedly made some pretty stupid moves yourself. Lord knows I did. And there are things that if I could say that they didn't happen, would be great. Am I about to tell you everything I did that was wrong? Not a snowball's prayer. Some of the things that I did that were wrong was listen to the wrong people. Some of those people being the people that were trying to tell me that I should fear everything. The biggest one for me in a physical sense were the so-called professionals that guided me into bankruptcy twice. Okay, now I listened to them because I was told they knew what they were doing. Little did I know until about 15 years after my bankruptcy that what they had done was serve their own self-interest, and the bankruptcy never should have happened. Now you figure this one out, okay? The first time I went bankrupt was on $6,000. The second time on $14,000. Now, if that was the best thing for me, why am I still paying for it today? Why are you still paying for it today? Yes, you can make miscalculations, but I will tell you, bankruptcy more often than not is overrated and does not accomplish what you're led to believe. Or at least it didn't with me. Okay, sure, it gets you out of the immediate debt. But an immediate fix will not solve the problem. And this is why I keep telling you that you are not able to solve somebody else's problem. You can't fix it. You can put a band-aid on it, you can make them feel better for a little bit of time, but unless you get to the core, and this was the funny thing in my case, I only got to the core backbone of where my complications were coming from about a month ago, when I finally realized it wasn't a question of me finding a way for other people to accept me. It was a question of me figuring out how to accept myself. Now, you can chalk this up to imagination. You can chalk it up to being completely off my nut. Although there are three professional psychiatrists that I saw over the years, all of which said my mind was working perfectly well. I still debate that point, but the ones that are licensed and trained, they said it is, and that means I don't have to deal with the side effects of it not being. Okay, but when I came to the understanding that the real problem was what I felt about me, that's when my life really took a change. And this is a journey I'm asking you to join me on. Because working together, we can turn the tide of the way society is going. Now, I am seeing changes. I'm also seeing some pretty stupid, desperate moves to maintain the status quo. The status quo can no longer hold. Now, don't get me wrong. The original way that the political system, the educational system, and the legal system were set up, the original way was, in essence, correct. The legal system, and I am not I'm not a political historian, so I cannot speak to what has been posted. But my personal belief, the legal system was designed by criminals, by very wealthy criminals, to protect very wealthy criminals. And of course, that just trickled down to take care of the others. Criminals being the people that take a look at the law and go, I've got so much money, it doesn't apply to me. Well, the amount of money you've got doesn't make a bit of difference. Okay, it changes the amount of stuff you can have. But, I've spent a lot of time talking to people over the years. Years being 48 at this point, this lifetime only. And the happiest people I really found were ones living on the street that had virtually nothing. Okay, other people I've talked to have found similar things in so-called third world countries where the material world did not matter. Okay, the first trick to changing society is to take a look in your own life and ask yourself, are you taking responsibility for your actions? Are you taking responsibility for your thought processes? If the answer is yes, that is fantastic. Stay on it. If the answer is no, it is time to turn that around. Okay. Now you can continue living in fear if you'd like, but I'll tell you, it is not working as well as you might think. The biggest challenge that you're going to have to go through is realizing that the law of the land, the laws of nature, karmic laws, don't care what your pocketbook looks like. Okay, you take a look at this whole issue with COVID. Okay, you can bet your bottom dollar it did not just check to see who the poor people were or who the people that were voting for the wrong team, for the wrong group were. Okay, the disease did not check anybody's health records to see if they had health insurance, to see if their mortgage was paid off. Much like, ants, if you've ever been in an area where ants, as in the little six-legged thingies, get into your house, you can bet they're not checking your balance book first. Okay. The reality is, these are forces of nature. Okay, and nature does not care what your pocketbook looks like. It doesn't care what your heritage is. You'll notice when a flood happens, it does not check the skin color of somebody before it takes their house away. Neither do tornadoes and firestorms. But the other thing you'll notice is in the case of a massive problem, whether it is a pandemic like we had here, or a disaster as in a flood, it doesn't matter. People pull together. All of a sudden, their difference in religion, their difference in skin color, their difference in gender and age don't matter. Okay, this is the place we have to get back to. And, when the convoy started out, it really doesn't matter anymore what it started out as. What it has brought to light is that we have a whole whack of people, and it's no longer even just the truckers, from what I gather. But we have a whole lot of people from every walk of life pulling together, aiming at the same thing. This is the way it's supposed to be. Okay, when this world was set up, it was set up so people could learn to experience the physical world in a corporeal body with limited senses. It was also designed to grow as a family being identified as two people, any gender, any nationality, okay, under one roof, raising as many children as the two of them decided. Okay, or caring for as many adults for that matter. Okay, society has gotten so far away from the family core, which is the backbone of society, that it is now in a disaster. And much as I do see some positive changes happening, I'm also seeing things being done that are a clear indication of panic. Okay, people in positions of power are all of a sudden going, we're going to make, well, quite frankly, we're going to make laws to try and enforce the situation to keep us in our position. The problem with that is it will only last for so long. Now, I strongly recommend against any form of violence. However, communication between people will turn the tide in time. Okay, but it's up to you. Okay, you can carry on with the life the way it is, and sooner or later, when I'm talking sooner or later, I'm talking you leave it on the path it's on, and you don't have to take my word for this. But if people do not start really pushing to turn this around and put the boundaries in place that they are content with, okay, if we do not turn society around very soon, yes, it will eventually burn itself out, and somebody generations down the road may straighten it out. When the monarchy system, on the whole, collapsed, it took almost 400 years to get itself turned around again. Now, do you really want to wait that long? Because I don't know about you, but the odds of my living that long are pretty limited. But if we work together now, we can actually make this world a much more effective place. Now, for those of you that are getting stressed out, which, frankly, I'm one of them. Okay, if you take your palms, okay, and you put them just about a quarter inch to a half an inch apart, you'll feel energy between your hands. That is the energy of life. That is what I call, and what I have come to understand, is the quantum magnetic flux. That energy can be manipulated. It can be guided to help you heal, to help your communication lines, to help your weight, which, by the way, I'm really content with the fact I'm down again this week. Okay, so the goal I set for myself was 200 pounds by the end of the year. I'm down to 207 at this point. Well, 207.6, I think. In there, 207 anyway. Okay, which means I've got all the 7 pounds to lose in the next, 9 months? I'm pretty certain I can pull it off. But I'm not stopping there because ultimately I will go after the 180 mark. 180 pounds and stable energy levels. Stable pulse, that sort of thing. You have the ability, regardless of what anybody tells you, aside from what you tell yourself, you can alter your physical health in a positive fashion. You can turn your finances around. Okay, now if you don't know how, that's understandable. You probably got there over a long period of time. Okay, one thing I would like to encourage is if you've got a question or a comment, absolutely contact me at the contact numbers below. Okay, leave a message in the comments. If you desire to send a more private message that not everybody gets to see, because I don't use names when I talk about what people are going through. Not on the whole. I mean, yes, I have mentioned my father on a number of occasions. Of course, we gotta understand my father is deceased. Okay, same as my mother. So there's not a whole lot you can say to them that's really going to have a lot of effect on their life. But if you've got questions in any field, I've been working since 1973. I was only 10 at the time. I started working on people's relationships. The boyfriend-girlfriend thing. It started with 16, 17-year-olds. When I was 23 in 1986, I started working professionally in this field, as in generating an income. To that end, I have written a number of books, which are all listed below this video. Every one of the ones I've written that is available at all, you can find there. Some of them, as in the Yldrbacian Chronicles that I've been writing. Okay, the 2 books that are out in that series are available on authorhouse.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, and Chapters. And I'm hoping a few other places. I'm trying to get it into Goodreads, but for the moment, that's not the way it's worked. Because I'm having trouble getting it set up. Of course, marketing is not my strong suit. What is my strong suit, in my opinion, is I do understand a lot of it because of what I've gone through, because of what I remember from past lives. Okay, I do understand what people are going through, what they're doing. Yes, I'm reclusive, but I've been watching people for a very long time. In all fairness, I tried to hide from people for the longest time. It's time for me to step out of the shadows. And it's time for somebody, I just happen to pick up the bag. Okay, it's time to look at the world. Take a look, whatever religion you're in. Get to know the religions around you, and this is why. I have looked over the guidelines of Christianity, Judaism, the Muslim faith, I keep getting this one wrong. Oh, the Hindu faith. There we go. The Wiccans, the Church of Satan, the Jehovah's Witness, the Mormons, the Cree. Okay. These are all groups, all religions that I've looked into myself and looked at the guidelines. This is not what I've read about what somebody else says the guidelines are. I've actually looked at the documentation that you are likely living by. You will find virtually every one of these religions, okay, or spiritual guidelines, teaches you the same thing. Okay, they use different words, they use different names for it, but they teach the same thing. Same as they use different rituals. Okay, and for those of you, now, understand, I'm fully expecting to upset a number of people. Okay, and the reason for this is we are taught from the day we're born to fear death. You die, you're going to hell. You die, you're going to heaven if you're really nice. Okay, you die, you get real rewards when you're dead. Well, frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm really not interested in dying again. I've done it at least 8 times this lifetime, 4 times before I was 10. Okay, but as I told life insurance agent one day, I'm more concerned with how my children live now than I am with whether I leave them a great big chunk of money when I die. Because if you don't train your kids properly, if you don't educate yourself properly, there's not going to be anything left behind. Okay, and as I point out to people, once I'm dead, okay, I don't have to worry about my bills. Yeah, somebody will have to worry about them, but I really won't. Okay, and if they want to come and talk to me about me paying bills after I'm dead, I'm more than willing to talk. Okay, but we have to realize that everybody is standing in the same boat. Most of the people, the massive majority of people that have these beautiful houses and beautiful cars, okay, more power to you if you've got the things you like. But most of the people with that kind of money are actually renting or they're either renting or leasing through the bank. Okay, if you're paying a mortgage, you're paying money to the bank to float that mortgage. You leave your name on the bill, on the home, and that's yours. Okay, it's called your house. If you're renting an apartment, you're paying a monthly rent to the landlord. But that same landlord is likely putting a regular monthly payment to the bank. Now, I've seen some cases where this is not the case. Okay, there are pretty much always exceptions to the rule. Okay, I'm a pretty big exception. At 5 years old, when they diagnosed me dead and shipped me off to the morgue, I didn't understand that meant I was supposed to stay there, so I left. Okay, but we have to realize that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Those that desire to keep looking down on people, that desire to stop people from living, as in take everything away so they've got nothing left to work with, those people may well be sadly disappointed in this situation. Okay, because the real strength of society is not it's not in the politicians, it's not in the police, and don't get me wrong, both the politicians and the police are absolutely necessary to keep society running. We are not talking about overthrowing anything. We are talking about working together. We are talking about communicating with each other towards a common goal. Okay, but the reality is, in order for that to happen, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. Even if you're in an industry that says you have to behave in a certain fashion, if that fashion does not feel right here, if it does not feel that like it goes down the same path you see is proper, okay, then it's not going to work that well. I missed out on a great job one day because I told the prospective employer that if I wasn't happy with my own work, it really wouldn't matter to me whether he was happy with my work. That apparently was the wrong thing to say, by the way. So I can only surmise they were looking for somebody that was going to go, oh yes, I'm going to put you on a pedestal and I'll do whatever you say regardless. Well, I'm telling you, even in the church, that's a bad idea. You were given free will, free choice. Okay, you were also told, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. It's time to start bringing that back to the surface and living that way. It is time to start working with each other. Take this fear that has been drilled into your head for centuries and start pushing it sideways. You're told consistently that change is painful, it's scary, it's difficult. Well, the fact you're listening to me at all says every time I say a different word, you're hearing something differently, which means your brain has to shift gears. Now, unless you're writhing in pain on the ground right now, my guess is the change isn't that painful. Okay. And yes, this sign, it may seem a little, tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. But the reality is, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. It's time to quit blaming everybody else. If you happen to be a heavy drinker, and you find yourself consistently going, oh, it's so-and-so's fault that I drink so much. Okay, well, it really is. Your fault, not theirs. Because unless somebody is holding you down and forcing you to drink, or holding you down and holding a cigarette in your mouth, or holding you down and jamming drugs into your veins, you're the one that's responsible. Okay, now there is certainly the problem with things being physically addictive. And with that in mind, and I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again, but I discovered a way of breaking a very severe drug habit and alcohol addiction. I also figured out a way of cutting back on my sleep, which, by the way, isn't necessarily a bright move, but we'll figure that out later. But I figured out how to do this without withdrawals. Okay. Now, if you're at the point where you desire to quit one of these things for you, absolutely drop me a line in the comments below, or drop me a private line at one of the contact points in the list below this video, and I will do my level best to bring you up to speed. This whole pattern, by the way, within the next couple of days, I'm sure I'll remember to get it done. Okay, but I'm going to put this pattern out there for free. It won't cost you a plug nickel. It will cost you time. Okay, it will cost you effort, but it will only work. It will likely only work. May work if you're doing it for somebody else, depending on how much that somebody else means to you. But you've got to have the drive here to really make that happen. Okay, and that's just the way that reality works. But I will be doing another video to explain how that system works. Okay, where you can actually reprogram your own brain to heal, to let go of that addiction. And like I said, the people I've handed it to in the past, it has been without withdrawal. I myself went from drinking a 26er a night and 6 lines of cocaine, okay, to doing none of it within a month and a half. Okay, to this day, I can sit down and have a drink if I want it, or leave it sit. It'll take me a decade to finish a 26er now. Okay, but the time for fear is over. The time for pointing fingers at other people is over. Okay, hate to pop your bubble, and this is just my belief, based on what I've seen, based on what I remember. This is not something that the state of society is not something that somebody is going to come from another planet and go, oh, you've made a mess of things, let's clean the house up. Okay, let's clean it all up and make it all better, and then you're fine. That's not going to happen. Whether you call it an alien, a god, it doesn't matter. Okay, the only person that's going to sort this out, the only people on this planet that are going to sort this society out are you. Okay, and the people around you. This is not a one-person job. And this is why I'm asking for you to join me on this journey, to work with me, to make this world a better place overall for the majority of people. Now, I will be back again tomorrow, but until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.